Well, hello, it's Robert here again. Just sharing some of my classic country while listening to a little Buck Owens on the old turntable. I wanted to share a few gems. It's actually been a little over a week, I think, since I've done a video, but did want to share a few things this evening with you. Hope you're all doing well. First, we'll take a look at an old Furlin Husky album from the mid-50s on Capitol. This was not a singles album, but was an album recorded for the studio. Featured a number of standards like Roly Poly and Hang Your Head in Shame, but it was a Furlin Husky style of the time. Most of his albums are country pop. This is one that's just straight ahead honky-tonk country. Nice album. And then next, Luke Gordon. The singer you don't hear much about. Again, from around the mid-50s. He had a singing style a little like Hank Williams. At times, he would put a bluegrass touch to his music. He would use the Stonemans as backup at times. He made some nice records. The most popular one was Dark Hollow, which is not on here. Going Down the Road, Changing Company, Lonely Heartache, Pastures Green. They are on here. And these are all recordings made from around 56, 7, and 8. But very nice recordings. He's recorded for a number of little labels, such as Blue Ridge and Empire, and a few on Star Day. He was from around Northern Virginia, and he played a lot in Maryland. And he was just an excellent singer. It's a shame that more of his records aren't heard today. This is an Audiolab release of some of the King recordings of Clyde Moody from the late 40s and early 50s. Nice version of the blues came pouring down on here, along with hits like Shenandoah Waltz and Next Sunday Darling is My Birthday. So fine album here from Audiolab. One of their gems that are tough to find. It's a good album nonetheless. This is a Bear Family reissue of Gene Autry. On first glance, it looks like an album of his cowboy songs of the 40s, his Western style songs of the 40s, late 30s. This is not. This is actually a release of his early 30s sides for Victor. Most was just him and his guitar. More done in the Jimmy Rogers style. High Steppin' Mama, Bearcat, Papa Blues, Money Ain't No Use Anyway, Yellow Rose of Texas, Black Bottom Blues, and a lot of that particular style, more the hillbilly sound of Gene Autry. So this is an excellent album. Don't be fooled by the cover. It's a picture disc to it as well. And also, Bear Family did release a nice CD box set of all of Gene Autry's recordings from 29 to 33 a few years ago. The Bluegrass Band from the late 60s. Very good band. Cliff Waldron and the New Shades of Grass made a few albums for the Rebel label. This is one of the very best. Has his version of Four Strong Winds, Wash My Face in the Morning Dew, No Longer a Sweetheart of Mine, Got to Get a Message to You. Actually, a couple rock songs they kind of redid in a bluegrass style. One of the main things that really heightened their sound was the dobro playing of Mike Aldrich when he joined that band. And he just gave it a very nice touch. There's a lot of good dobro playing. A little more simplistic than was his style with the Seldom Seen. Cliff Waldron was a good singer, and he did make a few nice albums, this being one of his best. Another popular bluegrass band in the early 60s was Jim and Jesse, also in the 50s. This is one of their epic albums from 1964 with their versions of 9 Pound Hammer and Take My Ring from Your Finger, Just When I Needed You, The Grass is Greener in the Mountains. That's a solid, good bluegrass sound from the early years of Jim and Jesse. Another fine album. This was released in the late 60s of Jimmy Martin, but it actually, for the most part, is single cuts of his from the mid-50s, such as I'm the Boss, She's Left Me Again, Home Run Man, You'll Be a Lost Ball, Dog Bite Your Hide. So it's not an album he went in the studio recorded, but it's a selection of some of the 50s of singles, and it makes it a solid album to listen to. This is a very early album from the mid-50s, Arthur Guitar Boogie Smith. This is when Don Reno joined his band briefly, so he's on a number on here. Number of them, Feud and Banjos is on here, High-Low Boogie, Cotton Patch Rag, 3D Boogie, You're Off Limits, and he used to have a singer named Tommy Fail who had a good voice who also sang with him. His best work was for MGM, but those recordings and the albums they were featured on are hard to find, but this is one of them. Nice, interesting early album release. It's from 56 or 7 of the Southern Gentleman, Sonny James. This is not in his later style, but it's with steel guitar and electric guitar. Joe Maphis is on it. And I Wish I Knew, Can't Get Over Missing You, Forgive Me. A lot of Sonny's own guitar work on there. This is a solid country album. Very good listen to this. One of the last albums for King was this Don Reno Red Smiley. It was songs truck drivers loved. Truck driver songs were in vogue in the 60s. And this is one of the last things that they recorded for King. It's a good album. A lot of instrumentals on here as well. But this was the Don Reno and Red Smiley sound, and as you know, they're one of my favorite bluegrass groups. Another of King's popular artists in the 60s was the Stanley Brothers. This features Stonewalls and Steel Bars and Don't Cheat in Our Own Hometown, Late Last Night, Don't Step Over an Old Love, Can You Forgive, a lot of guitar playing by George Shuffler on this album. This album was recorded right around 63. Very nice Stanley Brothers release from that time. And this album was issued in the 60s. Recordings were made in the early 50s of Lonzo and Oscar. Probably the most popular country comedy duo was Homer and Jethro. But Lonzo and Oscar was also good as well. They had been recording since the late 40s for RCA. Had the hit on I'm On Grandpa and a number of other fine recordings with the Capitol. Recorded a little bit for Dot, and it also in those years for Decca. And this is a release of some of the Decca recordings that they made. This was a kind of a rare release of Decca doing some earlier country music when they released this in the 60s. One of my favorite artists was Mac Wiseman and his early Dot recordings. Most of Dot albums, they didn't have much of a picture on the front, especially with their country artists. This is one they did. This featured Mac Wiseman's early 50s Dot sides, like I'm a Stranger, By the Side of the Road, You're the Girl of My Dreams, Don't Blame It All on Me, I Didn't Know, Georgia Waltz, Gonna See My Baby. This is a powerful album of Mac Wiseman. For the 50s release now, we'll go to Tommy Collins, who was very popular, had a huge hit with You Gotta Have a License and You Better Not Do That, I Always Get a Souvenir. They're all on here, I'll Be Gone, It Tickles. Buck Owens, of course, was his guitar player. And he made a couple very nice albums for Capitol in the mid-50s. And then he kind of went to a gospel album. But this was one of the fine releases of his early singles. And then this was a nice release in the 70s. But a nice double set. RCA, they did on Bluebird, they did a few country releases. But not many. They kind of ran out of steam. They did one on Billboard's Cowboy Ramblers. They did one on the Monroe Brothers, and this one on the Blue Sky Boys. Good sound quality, nice overall selections from the 1936 to 1951 session. Blue Sky Boys is one of my favorites for just pure country music, pure earthy singing, and this was an excellent album. Had a number of releases, actually about 24 songs on here. So a very good album to listen to. And finally, the first Grandpa Jones album on Monument. My favorite work of Grandpa Jones was the late 40s, very early 50s King recordings. His Monument recordings in the early 60s were very nice. And this one was Makes the Rafter Ring. And he did a couple of them are remakes of some of his earlier songs with Banjo Sam and Groundhog, Going Across the Sea, and others. It makes it a good listen of Grandpa Jones. And I guess last but not least, the album that's on the turntable right now is this one of Buck Owens from the early 60s of You're For Me. And that's what I'm listening to in the background. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed me sharing some of my records with you. And I'll be back next time to share some more. Love the old country music. And I'm always glad to share it with you. So take care. Have a good evening. And we'll be seeing you. Bye now.